Hey there, we're fourth year high school students from Ateneo de Iloilo here to present to you our science investigative project for this school year 2012 to 2013. I am Hakeem Jimenez spearheading this project, and these are my two subordinates, Amuan and Pony.
Hey there!
Nay.
Have you ever had that trouble in studying, wherein no matter how hard you try, you just can't seem to remember whatever you studied in the previous night? Or perhaps, no matter how many times you read something, you just can't bring yourself to remember it? Well, our project, entitled Optimizing Brain Performance with the Use of White Lab Mice, is designed to help solve these problems. And yes, as the name suggests, we used white lab mice as test subjects.
Now, 2 questions must be posted and answered before we go through the experiment. First, why use lab mice? And second, what do we mean by brain performance?
Well, Ella, there are many studies that have shown that lab mice's bodily functions work the same as the humans, one of which is the brain. So we can assume that a person is affected the same manner as lab mice can.
And to answer the second question, in this experiment, brain performance actually refers to the ability to remember something or Now, in our experiment, we actually have 3 hypotheses, which we'll be explaining later on. But as of the moment, I'll be explaining our constant variable. As you can see, there are 4 mice in this cage. Each hypothesis will be experimented based on these 4 mice. And as you can see, this constant group is group A.
Hi there! As you can see, this is the set B group, the magnetic group. We use magnets because in our research, our brains used to have ferromagnetic crystals that assumed to be affect our brain performance. So we have to test the hypothesis, which states that the more exposure the subject to a magnetic field, the more it will increase our brain performance, especially of the rats.
Here we have the tryptophan group. Our hypothesis is the higher the intake of the tryptophan, the greater the brain performance. So first, we feed them with a variety of tryptophan high foods such as egg whites, chocolates, and peanuts. Delicious. Now, studies in Oxford's Department of Anatomy and Genetics have proved that tryptophan high foods can help in the cognitive skills of the human brain. So we tested it with these rats.
As you can see, this is the set D group, the Mozart group. In 1950s, began a trend, a doctor named Albert Tomatis, claiming the success of a Mozart sonata to help people by their speech and auditory disorders. But in 1990s, 36 students in a study of University of California at Irvine listened to a 10-minute music Mozart sonata before taking an IQ test. So, according to Dr. Gordon Shaw, the psychologist in change of study, the student score went up by 8 points. Imagine, 8 points. So, the Mozart music helped that much. So, Mozart sonata was born. In testing the hypothesis, the greater the exposure of the subject to classical music, the more the brain activity of the rats will increase. Here it is.
Now, how do we test these hypotheses? Well, in our experiment, we used this. This is what we call a radial maze. Basically, it just looks like an asterisk with 8 arms.
Now, in order to test it, we must first place some food on one end of the arm. And then, Kim, if you please, get the rat.
All we have to do is just place the rat in the middle, and then we just have to time how long it takes for them to find the food. However, before this happened, we actually had to train the rats so that they will know which arm has the food, and all they have to do is just remember it. So basically, the time that we measured is just a measurement of how long it takes for them to remember which arm has the food. And here's how you can make your own radial maze.
First, we make the walls of your maze using illustration boards. Measure the dimensions of the walls, taking note that the height is 20 centimeters. Continue to do so with more illustration boards, then proceed to cutting them out. Now, as for the base of the maze, which is made up of plywood, with an area of around 1 meter by 1 meter, make marks to show the shape of the maze. Take note that each of the 8 arms is 40 centimeters long and 5 centimeters wide. Also, each arm must be equidistant from each other. The next step is to drill holes to the 2 corners of each arm and to where the arms meet. Now, we may hammer in place barbecue sticks in the drilled holes, which will support the walls of the maze. If the sticks can't fit the hole, then we may simply thin them out using a cutter. Next, we shape the walls of the maze as we set them on the barbecue stick pillars. You may tape or staple the illustration boards together so long as it is stable. Don't be afraid to allow the illustration boards to overlap. In fact, this may even help in making the walls even more stable. Make sure that the walls and pillars are secure as to prevent the rats from escaping the maze. Continue to make the walls using illustration board until you have made the entire maze. Now you can go on and make your own radial maze.
So, we've exposed these rats to the different environments we've stated before.
And now, we've scheduled these rats to take the test once a week. And here are the results that we've gotten so far.
So, as you can see from this graph, you can actually tell that the magnetic performance actually improved significantly, especially in the latter weeks of the experiment. Therefore, we can say that exposing yourself to a stronger magnetic field can actually make you memorize faster. Perhaps this is because of the brain actually producing its own magnetic field, and thus, it gets affected by other magnetic fields surrounding it.
So, as you can see from this graph, the time of the tryptophan group didn't change much in comparison to the constant groups. This is probably due to the weak concentration of tryptophan in their food.
On the other hand, music group did awesomely. This graph shows that the rats memorized the maze quite nicely, supporting the conclusion made by the Mozart effect. So guys, the next time you're trying to study 200 items physics objective test, or trying to memorize 2-page verse for piece,
Or maybe trying to memorize the script from this video, or maybe you should try listening to some classical music, or filling your room with magnets.
So guys, thank you for watching our video presentation of our SIP project. Kindly watch out for more projects from Ateneo de Iloilo students.